Gabby, I'm so happy to have you back on RealPod and to meet you officially in person.
Officially in person. It's much better. Much better. And we're wearing the same outfit.
Yes, we are wearing the same outfit. And I usually also have notes for my guests, but I thought you would appreciate that. I really wanted to do my research so I could just be present with you and not have to look at something else. Yeah. I was like, if I have the opportunity to sit with Gabby Bernstein for 45 minutes, I should be in her energy.
I think that's the way to do it. I tried having notes for an interview and I literally was like, fuck this. I can't do it.
Yeah. And then I listened back to it and I realized I didn't hear something that the guest said because I was maybe looking down.
Yeah.
All that stuff. But okay, before we dive into your new book, Self-Help, which I'm so excited about for many reasons I want to share with you, I wanted to do a follow-up momentarily about the first episode that we did. So this was, I think, in 2022. You've done 1,000 podcasts since then. But to jog your memory, you had come off of a speaking engagement that morning on Zoom. You had like a really busy / productive day, but you were really calm. And I was taken aback by that. I was like, if I had the day you just described, I would be stressed, I would be frazzled, I wouldn't have grounded energy. And you basically said, why? Tell me more about that. And then that episode kind of became like an impromptu therapy session about my anxious hustle energy and like this tight grip I had on life. For anyone who didn't listen to Gabby Round 1 on RealPod, pause it, go do that, come back, have a Gabby RealPod marathon. And at the time, I couldn't understand. I understood the words you were saying, but I couldn't actually understand the philosophy of how to live it. You talked about knowing what was in my highest and best and how I could do the same things in my day and I didn't have to have like the clenched jaw, tight grip energy on it. And I literally just like didn't know how to do that. And now I do. It's been, I think, 3 years. Yeah. And I feel like it clicked for me. And when I was listening to it in prep for this, I was like, wow, sometimes it just takes growth. It takes the right therapy sessions. It takes making the mistake over and over again to have the realization. So I just wanted to share that with you.
I'm so happy for you. And so what made it click was the therapy, was just showing up for yourself.
Yeah. And honestly, since that interview, I've gone through a lot in my personal life and I've had to learn the lesson of acceptance and really letting go of what I can't control. And I think like I had to do it in a really big, extreme, uncomfortable way. And I didn't have a choice, right? You can't control other people.
Yeah.
And that, like working through that, which took more than a year, has then made all of like the more trivial, smaller lacks of control easier because I did this really big thing.
Beautiful. That's stunning.
Yeah.
And now actually what we're going to talk about today with regard to the book is like the next up leveling of undoing the patterns.
Yes.
So we do all this work, we get to this new level of our personal development, and then there's the next level.
Yes.
So welcome to the next level.
I'm excited to be here. And actually, so your book, Self-Help, talks about internal family systems, which is a form of therapy that I know you're going to describe today, involving the various parts of ourselves. And it was so interesting going through it because I feel like I've done it in a way where I've worked on it in therapy, but didn't actually know what I was doing. For example, as someone who had a binge eating disorder, when I talk about triggers or a meal not going the way I thought, I do take that moment to stop, meet myself with compassion. Of course, this is hard for you. Like, you used to have an eating disorder. No shit, this is triggering for you. Now let's be curious. Like, okay, how can I, I've found that I think what you did here is incredible because you've really simplified it and made it digestible and easy for people to take into not just that sort of situation, but the 100 different ways that it can come up in someone's life.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear, what inspired the book?
Well, first of all, the book is inspired by this therapy called internal family systems therapy. But IFS was born out of Dr. Richard Schwartz 44 years ago, working with women who were struggling with eating disorders. And he was in session with these women who would often binge or I think it was mainly binging.
Purge.
And purging, yeah. And self-harm and all that goes along with that, because it's a form of addiction. It's a form of protecting. And he started to work with these women and they would describe these different parts of themselves. So they'd say, well, there's the part that wants to binge and then there's the part that wants to self-harm. And then they would say, when I'm with you and I'm in session, I feel like this other part that's more calm and I feel more connected here. And he'd say, well, who's that part? And they'd say, well, that's just myself. And he realized, oh, okay, so while we have these different aspects of ourselves, these different parts of ourselves that are protecting us from these very young moments in time, we'll get to that. We also have this self inside, this energy, this compassion, this connection, this calmness. And so really simply put, IFS is based on the premise that we have an inner family of lots of inner children inside of us. And these little inner children are like often very extreme at times. And they're protectors is what they call it in IFS, protector parts. And the protectors are the controller or the people pleaser or the perfectionist or the workaholic or the binge or in my case, the cocaine addict. We have these extreme parts of ourselves that are working so hard to manage our big feelings. And so who are the protectors protecting? They're protecting very, very young, exiled, impermissible experiences of trauma, big T or small t. Mm-hmm. So whatever we experienced as children, whether it was attachment breach or feelings of being unlovable or inadequate or big T trauma, like in my case, sexual abuse as a child. So having, whether you're aware of the experience from your childhood or not, you're likely aware of the protection mechanisms. Maybe you call them coping mechanisms. Mm-hmm. And so for the sake of today, we can talk, we can connect and sort of begin to, if you feel comfortable, get to know a little bit more about that protector that's now so healed, but still might need some support.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I need to come
That
up
would be a really big deal for listeners. I haven't done any of this particular work.
Where you need like
with someone who's with a eating disorder. I haven't done that.
Yeah. Happy to do that. It's been years and I feel at a very healed place with that, but happy to dive into it, of course.
Only if it's not triggering and only if it feels good. We're not going to go anywhere you don't want to go.
Of course. Something I do want to say though is I've done a lot of ego work, and that's actually been something that's helped me with kind of the letting go of the hustle and the grip. And I feel like what is so awesome about IFS is sometimes for people, when they do hear this like ego term, it can feel very like far away and it doesn't feel specific. And I think that what IFS is offering is a way to like really understand the ego in a way that feels like friendly and familiar, and not like, oh, just when you hear ego, just turn it off, which I think for some people can be hard. So IFS is obviously like, you have your ego voice, but it's going to say different things. It's going to come up in different ways. And like now you can know what that protector part is doing this for, why it's there. And I feel like that's going to bring people a lot of clarity.
Yeah. From an IFS perspective, there's not one ego voice. It's a lot of voices inside there. And the voices that are inside of us, almost like we have multiple personalities, and I think people could resonate with this. Maybe you say like, oh, when my boss calls me out, I have a part of me that wants to rage. Or when my partner does this, I have a part of me that shuts down. Or when I feel inadequate, a part of me wants to binge. Whatever those parts are that we can identify. Or you might see yourself as a control freak, or you might see yourself as a workaholic. We have all these different aspects of ourselves. From an IFS standpoint, it's not one ego. It's actually many protection mechanisms. And they're very young. They're like little people inside of us. And they're protecting all day long, trying to manage our big feelings. And so I can give you a personal example. So when I was a child, I had a lot of trauma as a kid. I also felt very out of control and very unsafe in my world. And so what my little girl had to do was build up a protection mechanism very young that carried a belief that if I don't do it, nobody else will. And a belief that I have to control everything to feel safe. And so that protector really manifested in many in intense ways, right? So workaholism, drug addiction, alcoholism. And so I lived with that fierce protection mechanism. And the beauty of IFS, similar to what you were just sharing, is that we don't have to actually shut down that protection mechanism or shame ourselves for it or stop it in its tracks. We can actually befriend it. And so what I've done is I've taken this therapy that I've used with my own therapist, that I've been trained in as an IFS practitioner, and with the permission of the founder, I've made it a self-help practice to help you befriend those parts of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Which is amazing. And I love that you've simplified it into these 4 steps. I think for people that makes it super easy. I'd love if you could take us through those 4 steps.
Great. I'll give you examples. Okay.
I would love that.
Yesterday, so my control part is doing great. I feel like she's very strong inside of me. She's feeling quite good, but she showed up yesterday. And so I haven't spoken to my team. I've been away for 2 weeks. My chief of staff is in London. So I'm in Los Angeles. So like when I'm waking up, she's going to dinner. Like it's a disaster trying to connect and make things happen. And so we're trying to have a big conversation right before I had an big interview. And so I'm feeling stressed out about the conversation. I'm feeling out of control. When I feel out of control, the controller part steps in. And so in this case, the controller part started being like, well, you guys need to do it this way. And I don't know what's going on. And I'm feeling out of control and blah, 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 just sort of negative. I left that. I went on my interview. And on my interview, I demoed myself for the reporter for the UK Times. Okay. I was like, here are the 4 steps. So instead of shaming myself or blaming myself for being in that controlling energy, I chose to check in. That's the first step. So instead of checking out by being like, oh, I'm going to, blame myself or judge myself or go eat over it or drink over it or whatever people might do, I checked in. And so that first step was to become conscious and aware of the fact that this is a part of me that's activated. And I'm going to look inside. And the second step was to become curious about that part. So I started to check in. Where do I feel it in my body? I feel it in my jaw. I feel it in my stomach. I feel it in my heart. What do I know about it? And it's like, oh, it's a little girl again. It's a little girl whose pigtails aren't straight and she's flipping out. And I saw that image in my mind. And how long has it been around? It's forever. And I just started getting more curious, offering some curiosity. And once I felt some connection to the part of me, I asked the third step, which is compassionate connection. And I said, well, what do you need? And that little part of me said, I need a plan. I just need a plan. I need a plan. And so then I started to check in with the 4th step. And the 4th step is to check for self. Do you feel more calm? Do you feel more connected? Yes, I felt calm. I felt connected to the part. Do I feel compassion? Yes, I had compassion for myself in that moment. Do I have clarity? Yes, I'm clear that I need a plan. And then I carried on, really seeing this confidence to speak up and courage, these C qualities. And as soon as I ended the conversation with the interview, after I'd therapized myself in front of a UK reporter,
which I love,
who was literally like, totally like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with this. I got on the phone with my chief of staff. I spoke and I was able to speak for that part of myself rather than as that part of myself. So instead of speaking as that controller, I spoke up for her.
Yes.
And I said, listen, Jess, I'm feeling out of control. I haven't seen you in weeks. I haven't had any kind of, this conversation is stressing me out. I want to make sure we get it right. Here's what I need. I need a plan. She was like, I see that. I know that. Let's make sure we get you a plan. I'm here to take care of you. And I was able to create the space where I could be, and I apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry that I was so aggressive with you on the phone. You know that I love you. I know that you're hearing for me. I just want to make sure we get a plan. And she's like, we got this together. And it was the most gorgeous conversation. And that's the work.
Yeah. I love that so much. And I feel grateful to hear it and feel like I recognize it.
Yeah.
I do think though, when we've had these epiphanies in life and we get it, it's amazing. I know there's a lot of people listening who are like, wait, what do you mean look for self? Like I am me, right? How would you define self versus the parts or these voices?
Excellent question. Excellent question. Well, the good news is you don't have to look for self. Self is an energy inside of you. Self is actually the genuine nature of who we are as children before we have these burdened experiences. So self is creative, self is compassionate, connected, curious, calm, confident, clear. And when we have access to that, which we all do in different moments, right? Maybe in Shavasana, maybe after a long run, maybe when you're doing your podcast, you feel like you're in the flow and you don't even have to have your notes with me because you just want to be present. That's your self energy. So we all have it, but we've just built up these blocks and barriers against it. And those blocks are the protectors. And so instead of trying to, push down the blocks, we befriend the blocks. We get to know them. We become calm with them. And the 4 steps that I'm offering are self-like qualities, right? Choice to check in. The curiosity is a self-quality, curiosity, offering then compassion, that's self-quality. And when you go through those steps, you start to feel calmer. And that's the 4th step. Self emerges naturally. That's why it's called self-help. Self is an inner healer inside of us. It's an energy inside all of us. We never lost it. There's a beautiful quote from the book A Stephen Kranz quote, he's an IFS practitioner. He says, self is like the sun behind the clouds. And when the clouds begin to dissipate, self, the sun of self, begins to emerge naturally. Mm-hmm. It's a natural state. So you don't have to find it. You just check in with it.
Would you say other words for self are like consciousness,
God,
wise
Buddha,
mind,
nature,
higher self,
inner guidance, intuition, inner healer,
gut,
inner parent?
Yeah. I love thinking about it as like my wise mind. That's something my
I love
therapist
that.
has
It's
done
beautiful.
which was uncomfortable for me at first, which was to get really calm and then ask yourself a question and wait for a response. So that's actually the next thing I want to ask you is some people might think, wait, so I'm going to ask myself, what do I need? And then I'm just silent. Like, how does the answer come to me, right? How do I not fill in the blanks or the part fill in the blanks?
Right. Well, remember, you've chosen to check in with a part of yourself. So you're in the moment, you're controlling or you're anxious, and you're like, let me check in with the anxiety. So it's not just you, it's a part of you. So you've focused your attention on the anxiety, and then you've noticed curiosity. Where is it in my body? And you've gotten some connection to it. And so you're focusing towards the anxiety. Then you ask the anxiety, what do you need? Mm-hmm. And the anxiety will say, I need to rest, or I need to feel safe, or whatever it might need. And so you're not actually just checking in with yourself. You're checking with a specific part of yourself. And what happens very naturally when there's a chapter in the book called Let It Out. And this is a chapter that it looks like you've underlined.
I actually did, because this example you give of this email in the morning, it couldn't be more me. I literally wrote like, bring up page 59 example.
Okay. Great. So when you're interviewing these parts of yourself, you're turning and checking, and you can also do it through a journaling exercise. So you don't actually have to do it in your head. You can actually write it out. Right. And sometimes that just, your subconscious will begin to flow, and you'll just begin to write, and the words will come through you, and it will be like a free writing exercise where you can feel that incredible shift happening inside.
Can I just read your little anecdote?
Please do.
Okay.
I'd love to hear you
Gabby
read it.
writes on page 59, 8:30 a.m. is my magic hour. It's when my son is off to school and I'm at my desk, excited to take on the day. I like to write or do creative work at this hour. Unfortunately, this creative time can be easily interrupted by one glance at an email or a ping on my phone. I can be sucked into the vortex of my to-dos and lose connection to my creative flow. On one particular occasion, this distraction really triggered a part of me. As soon as I sat down at my desk, a work email popped up off on my phone, instantly grabbing my attention and diverting my focus. This troubling email highlighted a mismanaged situation at work that frustrated me. In response, my inner controller, quote, came forward, unleashing a fury of responses, determined to regain control over the situation. I need everyone to step up and get it together. I repeated internally and out loud, freaking out with anger and frustration. Soon after, another part appeared, the judgmental part. I began beating myself up for losing control. I thought, you can't run your business like a 10-year-old. By the way, like, did you take this from my diary or my life? No, I'm literally, Gabby, this is me. This internal struggle toggled back and forth between two parts, the controlling part and the self-critical judgment part, leaving me feeling overwhelmed and flooded by the inner conflict. Yeah. I'll toss it to you now.
Yeah, beautiful. First of all, you're a great reader. You're like giving the voices. I can't wait for you to read your own audiobook one day.
Oh my God, thanks.
So you and I have a lot in common, right? So while I may have had a cocaine addiction, you had a binge eating addiction, which is addiction nevertheless.
I would say emotional eating.
Yeah, emotional eating. And I would love to just identify that when we have those kinds of patterns, we often comes with other controlling mechanisms, right? So you can put down the drink or the drug or the food and the emotional eating, but then you can pick up other forms of protection that are still hard, they're the last frontier kind of. And so control is often a big one for a lot of us who've had that kind of experience. And in this example, what happens is the slightest little trigger of like the ping on the phone or the email can just totally take me out and throw me into that little 10-year-old girl who's like, why isn't anybody fucking doing what they need to do for me? And it's the little girl is literally saying, why isn't anyone taking care of me? Okay, that's a real feeling. It's a young feeling, but that's not appropriate. It's not an appropriate feeling when my team is working really hard to take care of me, they're working hard to do the great work that they're doing. They may not get it right all the time. Maybe 85% of the time they're going to get it right. And so every time there's 15%, I can't go to my 10-year-old self and start to explode because it's not working out. And I spent many years of my career doing that. And so God bless some of the people that worked for me a decade ago or even 5 years ago. They've seen that part, you know? And so they've seen good parts too, great parts too, but they've seen that part. And that controlling part was holding me back, has been holding me back for many years. And I've been working with it for 2 decades. And the beauty is that now the miracle of what just happened yesterday is that, yeah, she showed up again yesterday on the call, but within 4 steps, 1 minute check-in on a live interview with a reporter, I was able to help that part connect to self. And coming off the interview, I was able to go and call Jessica and speak for the part. Mm-hmm. And so that's just the rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
So my love, when you notice the controlling part of you show up, the ping on the phone or the Instagram or whatever it is that triggers it, check in. I got to give you my app. Do you have my app?
I saw that you have the QR code in the back of the book.
I'll give it to you today. Inside the app, there's 11 check-in meditations. So you could just do it with me. Like if you notice yourself going into the controller part, open the app and do it with me. I will take you through the four steps.
I definitely will. So yes, I have the controller part. Could you list a few more parts that maybe someone listening could be like, yep, that helps me have a little bit of an aha or a seed to follow?
These protector parts are beliefs, patterns, behaviors, feelings, sensations that are often undesirable. They're often extreme. Sometimes we could maybe have protector parts that seem pretty good, right? Like, oh, I work so hard, right? So it looks like on the outside like this great thing that we're going to be praised for, but actually it's really extreme.
Yeah,
right?
I can speak to that one. It's just helping keep up an identity, because if you don't work really hard, you don't know who you are. That's me. So, you know, like it can seem like a positive, which it is. You know, I'm really grateful that my core beliefs are positive, that I believe in myself and I think I'm Superwoman, but that has negatives when...
Well, here's the good news. There's no bad parts. So they're just been put into extreme roles. So my controller part was very extreme for so many decades. I was very, you know, my stomach was always in knots. I was always stressed out. I had a lot of issues because of it. But she did a lot of good. She wrote 10 books in 14 years. She's helped so many people. So now my job isn't to tell that part that she's bad. It's just to help her feel less extreme, help her feel safer inside so that she can continue to do her great work, to show up, to maintain the power and control that she needs to do that work, but in a less extreme way.
It's funny. It almost goes back to the first episode we did together, where you're like, you can still do all the things, but you don't have to do it with this energy that's draining double your battery every single day. You know?
The only way to undo that energy is to heal the belief. And so the belief of, if I'm not doing it, I'm not good enough, or you can use your own words around it. So the question I'd ask your audience and you right now is, what do you want to manifest into your life? You want to share?
Yeah. What do I want to manifest into my life? I want to manifest a consistent and long-lasting, like, confidence in being exactly who I am without the fear or threat of how people perceive that or what they think about it.
Beautiful.
I think my biggest thing I know I need to work on for 2025, which has been one of my goals for the year, is to mind less what people think of me.
Yeah. So what's the belief blocking you from manifesting that?
That I need to take into account what people think of me to continue to be liked, loved, accepted, and successful.
So let's go deeper. I need to be liked to be successful.
I love this, by the way. So please
I know
bring me
you
into
do.
me.
I know. I'm showing up for your next session here.
Yeah. I don't know, because when we talk about it like that, I know that if a person on the street or a negative comment on the internet comes across, like my husband, my best friends, my family, it's unwavering, my relationship with them.
Yep.
So I know that, but it's the protector part, we'll say, that is like, no, you constantly have to be thinking about how you're perceived and make sure that you are asking all the questions, remembering the gift, writing the thank you card. A lot of that also was like trained in me by my mom, who she knows we talk about it, and she knows it was from her mom and whatnot.
Right,
to just never miss a beat. Always.
Do you
be
want to
perfect.
check in with that part?
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you define the part?
I would say it's the like, yeah, always be perfect, kind of do everything right, be the best at everything.
Be the best at everything, do everything right. Okay.
Sounds tiring.
Yeah. Okay, so let's give us a little love right now. Okay,
Yeah.
nice. So the first step is to choose to check in, which I think you've kind of done by saying, yes, let's check in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The second step is curiosity.
Yes.
You can close your eyes if you feel comfortable.
Okay.
Okay. And so focus your attention inward towards that part that feels like I've got to do everything right. Can make sure I'm doing it, being presented right.
Mm-hmm.
And just now notice where it lives in your body. And you could even tell me.
Yeah, I think it's like in my chest.
In your chest.
It feels like a thing in my chest that's latched onto my heart, my body, and it kind of like, I think, pulsates through everything.
Pulsates. Really good description. Beautiful. What else do you know about it?
It tells me that it's like, me gonna cry, like all I've ever known. So it's like scared to like not be the best or like give it my all or be so successful because I'm like, yeah, it's like scary. It's like, well, then who would I be? Would I fail? Is that what everyone loves about me? That I'm always that one,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. How long has it been around?
It's like ever. I mean, my best friend and I have a joke that I've never failed. Obviously,
Yeah.
like I have, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, yeah.
Forever. Yeah. Is it a little girl? Is it a boy? Like sometimes these genders are different.
This is where I get stuck because my parents were super unconditionally loving. I never thought if I didn't do well in a test or in a volleyball game, I would get in trouble or be less loved. Never. I don't know. Maybe like I just somewhere along the line, like third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, just like maybe became like, I just loved it. I loved being like top of the class, top of the team.
Are there any thoughts or feelings or sensations that are attached to the part or that come through?
I think like it's just who I am. If I can be the best, why would I not?
Yeah. Do you feel like you have a little connection to it right now?
Yeah, I think I fear that if I like let it go, like I won't know what I would do.
Okay. You don't have to let it go right now. You don't have to let it go. It's okay. We can keep it for as long as you need to. Can you just focus your attention back into the feeling in your heart that's attached to your whole body?
Yeah.
And just give it a little bit of breath right now. Now let's give it some compassionate connection. And can you ask it what it needs?
Mm-hmm. So asking myself.
Ask the part what it needs.
Asking the part, yes, what it needs. Ooh, which I feel like I've never done.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, what does it need? I go to thinking it wants like recognition and a hug and a pat on the back. But then anytime I do get that, I like don't want it in real life. Like if, I'm the quintessential, like last year went on the Drew Barrymore show and the Kelly Clarkson show in the span of a month. But I don't like call my friends to tell them all about it. Like I'm not like a gloater, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like they also joke that they're like, so do you want to tell me how this crazy day was? Like, so that's where I'm like confused because it's not like people in my life aren't trying to like celebrate me and pat me on the back or.
Does it want you to pat her on the back?
Now that is not fair, Gabby. Yeah, I guess I've never thought about that. That's crazy. Well, now I don't have to read the whole book. I'm just kidding.
How do you feel towards her right now?
That's crazy. I've never realized that. Like, I've never really done that for myself. Like, has anything ever been good enough for me,
Right.
Because I'm always think it could be better. I'm always judge myself.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then the fact that like, I don't even want to like talk about these big accomplishments because to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like do the next thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do we have any tissues in here?
Give her a little more breath right now.
Yeah.
Just take a deep breath. Let her know that you're here. Let her know I'm here. Let her know I see her.
Yeah.
How do you feel right now?
Well, I feel like I had a huge breakthrough that I didn't realize.
How do you feel inside?
It feels like less tight.
Yes.
The spot feels less tight. It also feels yeah, like I don't know, why does it feel like it's glowing?
Glowing. Nice.
Right. Yeah. Oh my God, I've never thought about that. It's something I'm gonna have to sit with for the whole week is like, how can I make myself, because I do the
You
things.
have clarity, yeah?
Yeah.
clarity?
I think I have clarity. I obviously give myself the self-care time, and I'm not like, I'm one to be like, yeah, I earned my weekend or my Tuesday off, you know? So I'm not like, here's me then now judging, right? Like if I deserve or don't deserve that.
Yeah. So this little girl inside, she wants your attention.
Yeah.
And just for a moment, reflect on how you so you feel a little bit more calm?
Yeah.
Do you feel compassion towards her?
I do, but it's like, whether it's because we're recording and we've got 3 cameras and all this, who knows? I feel resistance to give her the praise.
100%. You could still, oftentimes we feel angry towards these parts or we feel frustrated with these parts. So it takes a little while to feel the compassion.
Yeah.
Do you feel clarity about her?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, I saw it.
Yeah, I definitely do. I feel like this is a whole thing. I'm excited to like dive
good.
down.
Great. So you have curiosity to learn more.
Yeah, I do. And
Yeah.
also like, you know, why can't I give myself the adoration or the praise, or like, why can't, yeah, I
That's
do that for
another
myself.
part.
Yeah.
But the beauty is that even a glimmer of self is enough. And so you just experienced some calmness, some curiosity, like you're willing to know more, connection to her, clarity about her. That's all self.
Yeah.
And that's all you need is a glimmer of self to be reminded that self is inside ready to help.
Yeah.
And then in an hour, you can open the app or you can go to the book and guide yourself through the 4 steps again. And then tomorrow when you wake up and you're like, I got to do everything and I'm going to make everything happen, you can just do a quick check-in and give her that space. And the more you check in, so it's like 1 minute, 4 steps, the more often you do it, the more you trust self.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel this is making me think about the times where I do get like proud of myself or emotional, and it like is like once in a while. Like I pretty often on National Suicide Prevention Day, I feel this way because it reminds me of like the darker times I've had in my life.
Yeah.
But it's like, and I'll have people say to me, oh, don't you feel so, like, how do you feel like every day, like these women who feel impacted by you or these young girls? And it's like, I don't know why it's like, I feel like I can't allow myself to let it in every single day. And maybe people listening in a different way relate to feeling like, yeah, you don't have time or you're not allowed or you can't let in like the good every day for whatever reason.
It's a protector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm glad we could give such a cute example.
Yeah. I mean, it was extraordinary. And I think that these parts of us have been working for so long, so hard. So they're not going to go away overnight, but they'll feel these brief encounters with self, which lets them feel safer inside and sends the message to these young parts of ourselves. Hey, there's help inside. Self is there to help. And then you start to have this spiritual proof like, oh, I could just do those 4 steps and have a little relief.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'm feeling anxious. I'll check in with my anxiety. Or I'm feeling controlling. I'll check in with my control. Or I'm feeling like I have to be perfect. I'm going to check in with the perfectionism.
So I know the response that I might give to this next question if I'm speaking about mental health somewhere, you know, but I'm a human. And of course, like as much as the question I'm going to ask you is, how can someone feel valid in having space for their struggles when they also are holding the space or have the perspective of everything else going on in the world?
Great
you know,
question,
and like how we can sit here and like I can feel financially safe. I've got a healthy marriage. I have a loving family. Yet like I'm going to take the time to, you know, I can't tell myself that I work hard, you know, like that comes in. So the way that I would tell people who ask me that is like, I think there's room for both. I think your heart is big enough to hold space for people who lost their homes recently and for you. You know, we don't have to be comparing everything.
Yeah.
But clearly I still struggle with it. So what's your response?
I would say that those of us who have the privilege of being able to do this kind of self-help work, because we have the time, we have the space, we have access to the supports, we have access to the podcast, the books, the whole thing, that it's our responsibility to do it for those who do not have these privileges. Because when we start to wake up and we start to heal ourselves, those of us who have the privilege of being able to have the grace and the luxury of doing this kind of personal development, it doesn't mean that everyone can't do it. It's just that you may have more space to do it. You may not have to do 7 jobs or be out all day or whatever it might be. And so it's our responsibility to do that inner work so that we can have a higher vibration in the world and also do better service-oriented work in the world as humans, as activists, as podcast hosts, that the more we heal ourselves, the more we can heal others. So it's our responsibility.
I love that answer. Wow.
To get to great.
That makes so much sense. Gabby, thank you so much. Like, I did not expect that today. I was literally on my drive here, like, what's a part I could bring up to use myself? And I was like, I don't have any parts. Like, I was like, I don't have any parts right now. Like, that was what I said to myself.
People will be like, I didn't have any trauma in my past. My dad was an alcoholic and my mom was a drug addict. And I'm just like, yeah, like huge. Like another woman said to me yesterday, I didn't have any trauma. I didn't have any, no exiled parts of me. And she's like, but my dad left when I was 5. I'm like, honey, AT trauma, baby.
No, it's so true. Well, thank you so much. If this episode is not an example enough of how powerful this work is, thank you for writing this book. Thank you for taking the time to be on my show. My mom and her friend group included. I know there's so many people that would kill to sit with you and do this. So I feel so grateful. So thank you.
I love your mom. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Lainey.
Hi, Lainey.
She loves you. She listens to I Am Well every morning.
I can't with it, Lainey.
She wanted to come, and I was like, Mom, I don't think I can bombard Gabby in a safe workspace with a mega fan.
I would love it if Lainey came.
Maybe we could quickly FaceTime her.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I love you.
Okay, great.